The black comedy series The Outlaws, initially The Offenders, ultimately aims for feel-good television. While the tight ending mars some of the fun, it is still an endearing and goofy series, complete with a stellar cast ensemble, including Christopher Walken, embodying quirky characters. The story follows a chain gang of 7 embroiled in money embezzlement and laundering operation. The motley crew comes together for a community payback exercise, while the show oozes a community feeling. If you seek to revisit the ending from closer quarters, let us be of help. Rani Rikowski's family looks forward to her Oxford degree, but many burglary incidents send her to Bristol Community Services. In the Office of Community Service Officer Diane, she meets her fellow inmates, small-time crook Frank Sheldon, divorced lawyer Gregory Dillard, radical activist Myrna Okeke, right-leaning businessman John Halloran, Christian Taylor, whom we later discover to be Ben, an impostor of Christian, and social influencer Lady Gabriella Penrose Howe. A bus takes the titular offenders to a rundown community center, which they have to spring clean and renovate. Myrna and John become natural enemies, while Rani has a crush on Ben. Later in the day, Gabby offers Ben a joint, and despite his best wishes, he does not think a few drags would harm him. Meanwhile, Diane's superior comes for a visit and discovers Gabby, Ben, and Rani at the back. John Halloran seems to know the lot of Ben, which leads to a fight that Gabby streams on her social media account. John seems to have an upcoming business deal with the Chinese, and Frank gives him the idea of arranging the fabled Chinese wine, Guangxi, for a smooth dealing. With the tip, John finalizes the deal with Chairman Yang, almost saving his family business. However, he fails to reach the venue on time the following day, thanks to Diane, and Chairman Yang's daughter finds the fight video from Gabby's account. With the double mishaps, Chairman Yang cancels the deal, going to a rival firm. In another incident, people from the Brookhill crew visit Christian during the service, asking him to pull off a job in the suburban neighborhood of Lawrence Hill. Christian wants out, but the gang leader is not in a mood to negotiate. However, Christian wants more to leave his sister Esme out of the gang business. Thus, he agrees to do the task under one condition: they have to leave Esme out of this. The Brookhill crew leader gives him a gun, and when a heat gun goes missing from the toolbox, Diane asks all the offenders to show their bags. Of course, since Christian is a person of color, John readily accuses him of stealing, creating a situation where Christian may have to accept heavier punishment with a gun in his possession. Genius Rani effortlessly gets the gun out of the bag and passes the security check on their way out. She returns to Christian his weapon outside the premises and agrees to teach his sister, asking him to stay out of trouble. With his back against the wall, Christian does not have a way out of the cycle of crime. Masked, he heads to the rival gang den in Lawrence Hill, asking for the line. With the phone, which includes all their contacts, Christian finds a hefty amount of money. He almost gets shot in the process, but Rani comes to help by creating some diversion with the headlights of her family car. Christian flees while the goons note the number of the family car, along with the Rikowski sign. While Rani heads home and erupts in a celebration, Christian hides the money in a ceiling compartment in their place of detention. Frank, who stole the heat gun, thinks of throwing his grandson a party to help him woo some girls. He also asks for a present from Gabby, and her ladyship agrees to grace the party with her presence free of cost. While working, Myrna finds the bag of cash, taking it to John. The two later bring it to the party in Frank's house. They weigh all the options. Frank, who does not have a moral compass, asks the two to think about how their life can change if they escape with the money. Both Myrna and John agree to hand the money over to the police. However, after the cancellation of the deal, John's family is financially tight, which results in John having a change of heart. Myrna also counts herself in, hoping to use the money for her liberal leftist group, A38. On another side, the goons visit Rani's house, catching her by surprise when her parents are not at home. Rani distracts them by making up a story about passing through the place, while her father Jersey later tells Detective Lucy Haynes that he was out on a late-night job, covering up for Rani. Meanwhile, Shanti and Jersey keep Rani on edge, asking her to leave and give up her Oxford study. If she does not meet Christian, they can let her stay. With some help from Esm, the bond between Christian and Rani has grown stronger. However, despite Rani helping, Esm decides to bunk her exams, asking Malaki for work so that she can live independently. But she gets wrapped up in mixed signals, shooting the Brookhill crew Lieutenant Spider, who also happens to be Gabby's dealer. Rani snitches on Christian twice, and when Christian and her sister go AWOL after Diane finds the gun, the group has another change of heart. Frank looks forward to an escape, but he chooses to stay as his grandson burns his ticket and money that he set aside. Is it really a Banksy graffiti in the end? In the final moments of the first season, Frank paints over graffiti with Banksy written over it. The mural shows a rat amidst two painting cans, and Frank contends that it's awfully good. Meanwhile, Diane, deep in the final pages of a Lee Child book, mistakes it for an actual rat, asking if the creature weighs more than 10 kilos. Assured that it is a graffiti rat, she asks Frank to paint over it. If you are not living under a rock, you would be familiar with the England-based graffiti artist activist Banksy. His creations like Hula Hoop Girl, Rage, Flower Thrower, and One Nation Under CCTV have caused a media uproar. While the artist has not revealed his real name, he has appeared anonymously in his own 2010 documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop. And guess what? The mural in the show was actual graffiti by the legendary artist of our times. The news broke on November 10, 2021, weeks ahead of the season finale premiere, which was why the finale caused a lot of anticipation among fans. The credits section also begins with paying a tribute to Banksy, so we know that it's his creation. To some people, the ending did diminish the exuberant ambience of the show to an extent. Do Ben and Rani end up in jail? The show begins with a daring burglary, and it is no wonder that the kleptomaniac Rani develops a connection with flirtatious bad boy Christian. However, towards the end of the story, we discover that whom we think of as Christian is not Christian, and neither is he a bad boy. Malaki divulges that Ben was posing for him in the community payback since Malaki's father is sick. Ben went to the Dean's turf to obtain the phone with the contacts, and he got the money as a bonus. His only fault here is that he chooses to make a run with the money, which is a conscious choice. The mistake leads to another, and on the other hand, Esm shoots Spider, causing more trouble. Concluding Spider to be dead, Esm and Ben head to an Airbnb, while the gang meets their well-meaning but drug-addled mother. When they finally reach the Airbnb, Ben confesses to using the gun. Greg asks him to surrender, but more drama waits as the detectives arrive. Esm convincingly accepts pulling the trigger in front of Detective Lucy. But Ben counters by reminding Esm that she still has a hopeful future, to which Rani agrees. The other offenders are not of much help either, as they complicate the story. In the end, Diane agrees that Ben should get another 100 hours of community payback. We think that others get some punishment, too, for their complacency, as the chain gang graces the final scene together. Rani also may lose her ties with her family and end up with Ben, but that remains speculation for the second season. Is The Outlaws based on a true story? No, The Outlaws is not based on a true story. However, the series presents a thin slice of society with its motley crew of characters. Stephen Merchant, the co-creator of the original version of The Office, created the series alongside Elgin James, the co-creator of Mayans MC, and the former leader of the notorious punk gang FSU. The duo wrote the series alongside John Butler, Nikita Lalwani, and Emma Jane Unsworth, while magician-filmmaker R. Paul Wilson worked as a consultant. The process of working on the show was quite organic for James and Merchant. Despite their diverse backgrounds and experiences, the creators could find common ground, mingling crime and drama. Stephen Merchant was inspired by the recollections of his parents' workplace stories, as both of his parents worked in Bristol Community Service. While his mother did divulge the specifics to Merchant, keeping an air of secrecy, he would always find the stories interesting. For Merchant, as he recalled in an interview, the people working in the community service represented almost a cross-section of society. They were such an eclectic mix, from students in for minor crimes to the old guy who stole a cabbage to get into the community services, since he liked to socialize. Merchant got to know the administrative workings of the Bristol Community Service from his parents, along with some accounts of other people. His father was in charge of the tools, and curiously enough, the offenders always found a way to steal the tools. Or, in another instance, as Merchant shared, an MP came to do a photo call, and half the offenders had gone to the pub. My parents were hurriedly trying to get them back so that they would stand in line and look deferential when this dignitary came by. Merchant is a seasoned comic actor, but he often goes back to the thrillers while watching. He recalled watching a lot of Alfred Hitchcock while growing up, and he liked the blend of dark humor and suspense in those films. While talking about the genre blending, he recalled an episode from The Sopranos where Polly and Christopher are trying to hunt down a Russian gun for hire, while Polly loses her shoes in the snow. As often happens with writing comic sketches, the inspirations were diverse for this series as well. Greg's arrest features one of the funniest moments in the show. For Greg's terrible luck, Merchant and the writers were inspired by a British actor who, in a scandalous instance, was caught in Hollywood with a night lady. Merchant described his show as a suburban, pedestrian kind of western, the feel that early Tarantino movies aimed for. Therefore, the fictional storyline has much truth, although it is tied together with compelling and stereotypical characterization. For once, Merchant seemingly typecasted himself as the awkward nerd. On the other hand, he presented the story freshly and realistically. The Outlaws Season 2 release date. The Outlaws Season 1 released in its entirety on April 1, 2022, on Amazon Prime Video. Before its release on the streaming platform, the first season premiered in the UK on October 25, 2021, with the season finale being aired on November 22, 2021. The inaugural edition of the show has 6 episodes that run for 57 to 59 minutes. Now, let us talk about the development of a second season. As of January 2021, the original networks renewed the series for a second season, even before the first one went into production. Therefore, seasons 1 and 2 were shot back-to-back, while the pandemic situation largely confined the cast and crew within the studio. With the star power of Christopher Walken and a charming ambience that reminds one of the classic sitcom Community, the show amply pleased fans and critics. Thus, while the second season remains in the later stages of development, we contend that a third may be on the way. Meanwhile, there is no official release date yet, but we expect The Outlaws Season 2 to release sometime in Q4 2022. What can it be about? Although the creators went for a decidedly comic tone, the first season's ending is not all pomp and glory. Towards the beginning of the first season, Ben, posing as Christian, usurps a fat dough from the house of the rival gang leader, the Dean. We later realize that the Brookhill crew of Ben's home turf gives protection to the Dean. As Malaki explains later in the day, the money was tight, and he was not getting the fair share of business in his territory. Esme shoots Spider, and Ben takes her to an Airbnb to lose the heat. However, the gang catches up to Ben in due time, and they come clean to Detective Lucy Haynes about the shooting incident. Ben accepts all the charges and is ready to go to jail, but Spider survives the bullet wound. Owing to the ingenious plan of community payback supervisor Diane, Ben and the lot get 100 more hours of community service. In the final moments of Season 1, Frank continues whitewashing over a Banksy mural. In the follow-up season, things may go sideways once more. Through the first 6 episodes, the characters become more complex. While the first season's ending does a disservice to the characters by not bringing them out of their respective corners, it also keeps fans wanting more. The second season will possibly give us closure regarding Ben and Rani, as they may get more intimate. Moreover, Rani may go back to her Oxford degree, God willing, while S may finally understand the repercussions of her actions. S may take the exam she bunks the first time. She and Ben may even reunite with their ailing mother. Myrna re-enters her group at the end of the first season by employing a vote. However, another police vehicle hijacking may cause her trouble. In addition, we will see whether Gabby organizes her music festival, and if she ends up with sad sack nerd Greg. Lastly, Frank agrees to stay at home at the end of the first round, although the shifty old-timer may have another change of heart in the coming season.